Alright, so previously we talked about phonology and how we're storing the rules for speech sound production in the central nervous system. It works with our cognition or our memory and our language systems to tell us how we put sounds together. Next up, we're going to talk about the motor speech. And motor speech is also in the central nervous system, but it's also with the peripheral nervous system. But it's going to relate not with memory or with language areas as much as phonology does. It's going to relate more to the motor areas, so the cerebellum, the motor strip, the frontal lobe, and things like that. And it really relates to the execution and timing of the movements to create speech. So it really, if we look at how the cranial nerves work, we have cranial nerves that are housed in the brainstem, and our brainstem is right here at the base of the brain. And then these yellow areas are all cranial nerves that reach out and extend to areas of the face and the tongue and the throat, and this is the accessory nerve for the shoulders. So when we're talking about motor speech, we're talking about the transmission of signals from anywhere in the brain down these nerves to their endings in the face. And if there's any problem along this transmission, whether it's too slow or it doesn't happen or it's discoordinated, maybe the signal got mixed up, then it can change the way that the speech sounds structures coordinate. So again, phonology is just the storage of those rules in the brain. Motor speech is really that planning, so the instructions of how to get those speech sounds out of the brain and to the speech organs. Now, motor speech also relates to respiration, phonation, resonation, and articulation, because anything that is delayed here in the brainstem, if there's a problem in the brainstem, it can also affect things like breathing, or opening and closing of the velum, or opening and closing of the vocal folds, because it all relates back to those cranial nerves and how those nerves transmit information down to the speech organs. And so that'll be a little bit more clear to you when we talk about our motor speech disorders. And it also again relates to articulation, just like phonology, because all of these signals go down to the speech organs, and how these organs move is changed by the transmission of the signal. So if there's a problem, it's going to show up at the level of the speech organs when we're talking to somebody with this motor speech disorder. And so we really have to be able to classify the difference between our phonology. Is it an error in the storage of rules? Is it an error in the transmission of signals? Or what we'll talk about next, the movement of the structures themselves, if there is a healthy and intact motor speech system and phonological system. And if you have questions, I recommend that you really post them to the forum, because it's likely that other people have questions in this module. It is a little bit fuzzy, but it does clear up when we get into the disorders. You'll really see the difference between what a phonological disorder, a motor speech disorder, and an articulation disorder look like.